Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we're talking about Sarper and Shekinah. Because although we all know about Sarper's playboy past, Shekinah wants to believe that Sarper's a reformed man and has left all that behind. But all of that gets called into question when Shekinah learns some very interesting things about Sarper's childhood and gets some terrible news from one of Sarper's exes. So let's get into it. After Shekinah landed in Turkey and found out that Sarper was still keeping his bottle collection and the book of all the previous women he's been with, Shekinah is now deeply distrustful of Sarper and officially begins her secret agent arc, where she is on a mission to learn everything about Sarper's past in order to determine just how much of a changed man he is. He's probably not. The episode starts off with Sarper and Shekinah going out to a traditional Turkish dinner and meeting up with Sarper's cousin Füsun. Füsun?
I love Füsun because she is a straight shooter, and I'm kind of the same way, so I can really appreciate that.
Then, as soon as the three of them sit down for dinner, we see Sarper's counting habit come up again.
That was the longest time we've been apart.
107 days, 2,568
Has he always been like this? Really?
If you don't watch the show and just watch these recaps, thank you for that, by the way, thank you for watching these recaps, then Sarper's counting thing may be news to you. I haven't covered it in depth yet because I'm waiting for the right time to do it, but in a few scenes so far this season, Sarper has recounted, pun not intended, that throughout the majority of his life, when he's stressed it seems, he has a coping mechanism of going over math and numbers and counting in his head.
And when I'm anxious or depressed, I count everything. Rice grains on the plate. 7 cars, 17 people.
Shekinah, of course, already knew about this counting thing, but is surprised to hear from the cousin Füsun that behavior went away for a long time, and only recently came back with this whole Shekinah situation.
You found a way to...
When I'm anxious or...
I was gonna say, was it anxiety?
Yeah.
And before we get into how this dinner turns out very poorly, we learn some very interesting things about Sarper's upbringing, and possibly the events that molded him into the very interesting man we see today. Sarper and his cousin go on to explain that high school was a very difficult time for him. He was not very popular, he was very overweight at being over 260 pounds.
During my high school, I was not a good-looking guy. I was a chubby guy. I'm ashamed of it.
He was given a derogatory nickname of the truck driver, I guess because he was overweight, looked disheveled, and had some kind of leather jacket.
Truck driver?
Because of that black leather jacket. Am I a truck driver?
I don't know what the bullies have against leather jackets, but you remember high school. They make fun of you for everything. And even now, Sarper looks back on those times and feels a lot of shame. Shekinah tries comforting him and says like, oh, everybody was kind of overweight. You just had some baby fat and, I'm sure you were cute and trying to be nice.
Yeah, it's normal. And then they lose the baby fat. I bet you were so cute.
But Sarper's not having any of it and rejects all forms of comfort that Shekinah tries to give.
He's not being fat, babe. He was really fat. I was eating like maniac.
He really seems very ashamed of this time and still feels very uncomfortable talking about it. And then Sarper shares the most interesting and telling part of the story. He says that when he was 15, after he lost some of that 260 pounds of weight, he then got into a relationship with this girl that he thought was very beautiful.
Age of 15, I had a girlfriend, the first girlfriend. She was beautiful and...
Then, after the two of them had been dating a little while, he then found his girlfriend holding hands and kissing another guy.
What was she doing?
Hand to hand there, kissing and walking down, yes.
And that's already an interesting story to learn about Sarper, but what makes this story even more interesting is then heartbroken teenage Sarper, who feels very insecure and uncertain about the entire female population, goes to his dad for some support, who tells Sarper that, yeah, you can't trust women.
I called my dad and he said that you can trust any woman.
And was apparently reprimanded by his dad for being so dumb as to fall in love with a girl.
Even he was recommending me not to fall in love with any guy because falling in love is such a dumb thing to do.
And because of that experience, Sarper says that he was forever a changed person and never trusted allowing anyone to get close.
After that, I changed.
So do you feel like you just pushed people away whenever they would get too close after that?
Never trusted to any woman, but you.
And hearing all that about Sarper's past, it makes a lot of sense. First, I should say this is a TV show. Who knows if this is actually true about Sarper and not just some manufactured backstory from the producers to help us empathize with him or something. So first, we're assuming that this isn't fake for TV. Secondly, It's also not uncommon for some kind of bad boy figure who treats people really poorly to come up with this kind of sob story, then pull out the sob story as a get out of jail free card, either when they've done something wrong or as a protective shield for when they inevitably do something wrong, to then point to it and go, well, I have all these problems and, my childhood and stuff like that as an excuse. Or sometimes, if they're lucky, they don't even have to do it themselves because they may be with someone who is so compassionate and understanding that they will excuse a lot of the abusive behavior and tell themselves that, yeah, I know my partner has all these problems and don't treat me well, but I understand their past and, they're just hurt, and we'll make those excuses for them. So just want to be clear about that up front. Don't even know if this is real from the producers or if this is not some kind of convenient backstory for Sarper to manipulate people like Shekinah. But if we were to zoom out and just use this as a jumping off board to talk about that idea, that is the kind of story that can really mess up a young boy, and often causes that boy to develop either into the hyper
alpha male
who really objectifies women and sees them as trophies to puff up their own ego, or they go the opposite route and become incels who blame all their problems in the world on women and their judgmental capacity. It's not everybody, and it may not be the only reason, but whether it's the hyper alpha masculine man or the opposite incel, there usually is some kind of shared commonality in the Venn diagram of hating women and blaming them for how they feel about themselves. And one thing that could happen in childhood that makes someone hate women and blames them for how they feel is something like this, where a woman cheats on him, and especially if you're like the loser kind of fat kid, and then the cheerleader that you're with and goes and bees with like the really asshole jock football player, and then you feel like the world has wronged you and everything is just about looks and women don't care about what you're like, they just go after the hot guy. It's that crap. Incels then internalize that and think the entire world is just about chads and losers, and they were losers at birth, and the entire world is unfair, so let's just go end it all. While some boys then go, okay, well, if everything is about looks and appearance and being an asshole, I'm gonna be the most looks and asshole person I can possibly be. If that's how the game is played, then I'm just gonna play it 10 times better and get back at all those people that's wronged me in the past by going to be with assholes. I'm going to be the ultimate asshole now. And I'm going to get every girl that I would have wanted to get when I was a kid. And I'm going to show everybody, and then you get Sarper. Also, last thing before we go on, really important point here is that, yes, maybe the girl did cheat on him and, who knows the details of that. That would have caused pain. But I highly doubt a kid would have ended up like Sarper if it wasn't for the toxic masculine dad with his own traumas that he's bringing into the situation and dumping those traumas and maladaptive views on the world onto the hurting 15-year-old kid. Because we could imagine if the same situation happened, he gets cheated on, he feels really bad, and then goes to his dad, who instead of being a total misogynist about it, instead said something like, hey, everything is gonna be okay, champ. I'm sorry this really hurts and sucks for you, but maybe she wasn't the one for you. She really shouldn't have done that. That's not good on her character that she would cheat on you. But don't worry, champ. You'll find a girl who's right for you, that cares about you and loves you, and you'll treat her right in return, and you'll have a great thing. Like your mother and I, hopefully. Hopefully being able to model some kind of successful relationship so that Sarper doesn't internalize this idea that all of his pain and insecurities are all a stupid dumb bitch's fault, and now I have to spend the next 40 years of my life trying to get payback. Okay, that was a pretty long rant. Do you like these kind of side tangents? Should I just throw all these at the end for some real talk? I kind of feel like if I include this all right now in the middle of the video, then people would just wonder what the hell I'm talking about, get to the juicy part and click off. Anyway, given everything I said, I think Shekinah here actually says it best.
I think Sarper hearing that at a young age really shaped how he saw women in general. It's not an excuse for his behavior, but it definitely helps me understand him better.
Okay, so serious stuff aside, time for the juice, time for the drama, because after Shekinah learns about all this in Sarper's past, she then drops the bombshell that she has women in her DMs that are all claiming they used to be with Sarper, that he treated them poorly, that he lied to them, and that he may be lying in the exact same way to Shekinah.
Some of these women from his past are reaching out to me on social media. I'm just saying, these are real people that were really hurt.
This comes out of total left field for Sarper, who immediately rejects the whole thing and is like, well, this is nothing. Those girls, they don't know anything. which I guess is a response we could understand from Sarper. But what's really surprising is Fusoon, the cousin over here, then also dismisses all these women and says, no, none of them are hurt. They're all just jealous.
No, don't dive into that. They're not hurt, they're just jealous.
And even more mind-boggling, even if these women feel bad, it's not because of anything Sarper did. They feel bad because of the things they did.
But he made so many women feel terrible.
Yes, because of them they feel terrible, not because of him.
What kind of blind BS delusion do you have to be under to think that? Okay, to be fair, maybe in 2,500 people, there might be a couple people out there that may be making some stuff up and maybe we're also not good partners. Sure, that makes sense, but to be so certain that you don't even know who is DMing Shekinah. You don't even know who these people are that are messaging, just a blanket statement that of all the 2,500 women Sarper's been with, none of it was Sarper's fault. If any of them felt bad, any at all, Sarper didn't do anything wrong, and all of them, it's just their fault. I mean, how do you, what? I could see Sarper believing that as a sort of self-defense, I never do anything wrong, like, okay. Highly unlikely to be true, but for the cousin Fusoon over here to say that? How good does Sarper have to be at gaslighting or manipulating people for anyone to believe that there's no way Sarper did anything wrong? Even when you had the layup, you just went over this whole backstory about how he has this tragic past that changed him as a man and makes him not trust women anymore and push them away. You accept all that. And then when someone says, oh, I guess those feelings you have maybe later in life came up and caused some bad relationships, then you go, no, he didn't do anything wrong. That whole tragic backstory, that has nothing to do with how he behaves. And there's no chance that he's also treating people poorly after his past. That's just not a thing. What are you talking about?
Whether it's intentional or not that Sarper has hurt all these women, the really alarming part for me is that he doesn't realize it.
That's not a good sign. But what is a good sign, for Sarper at least, is that at this traditional Turkish dinner, they have a belly dancer who, I don't know what the tradition is for plastic surgery in Turkey. I don't know how common it is. I kind of thought Shekinah might stick out a little bit, but I guess not, because this lady has implants that make Shekinah look natural. And because this is 90 Day Fiancé, of course this lady goes straight up to Sarper.
They always come to him, I'm sure.
She starts dancing in front of him, doing the belly thing and shaking her booty. And Shekinah is not loving this.
Wow, babe, you're really into this. You're like really into this.
Then Sarper holds the dancer's hand and twirls her around.
Okay, maybe don't touch him. Bye-bye.
Shekinah draws a boundary with that and tells her to shove off. And at this point, you would think they would be done. But then the dancer comes back and shoves her boobs in his face.
He's in a relationship, so you can, keep it back up.
I'm no expert in belly dancing, but I kind of doubt that's one of the moves. Maybe you can let me know in the comments. Is this a thing? Is this really traditional dancing, or is this going a little extra credit? You know what I mean? But despite Shekinah setting clear boundaries with this, Sarper then pulls out some money and puts it in the bra of the girl who just shoved her titties in his face.
All right, babe, that's enough. That's all she gets.
And Sarper is like, what? This is tradition. Like, well, she danced for me.
But she dancing to me. It's a tradition, it's a respect.
And I think I'm with Shekinah here, who thinks, yeah, maybe this is tradition, but when I already made a clear boundary and said no, and you just kept going with it, at some point, be respectful to me. You can be respectful to her, but you also gotta be respectful to me. I said no, you should have stopped. Back at their apartment, Shekinah has some more information from these mystery women.
Ever since Sarper posted a picture of us on his social media, women have been reaching out to me to tell me that he is manipulative, that he's a liar, cheater, and the list goes on.
Now that Shekinah is getting all these DMs from mystery women who claim to know Sarper and know his manipulative tactics, Shekinah decides that it's worthwhile for her to meet up with one of these women and hear them out. Shekinah is getting ready to go out and meet with one of these women when Sarper asks her, what are you doing? Why are you getting ready? And surprisingly, Shekinah tells him the truth and says that I'm getting ready to go out and meet up with one of your exes.
She reached out to me and she told me that she had stuff she wanted to tell me about her relationship with you and she didn't want to text about it, so I'm going to meet with her.
And honestly, respect to Shekinah. Now, obviously, Sarper doesn't like this at all and tells Shekinah that this is BS, this woman doesn't know what she's talking about. If this woman had anything nice to say, she would have told you already. The fact that she wants to meet up with you in person behind my back, obviously she has bad things to say about me.
You don't know Turkish girls. They can exaggerate everything they can say. That girl, ex of mine, why she reached to my girlfriend? She wants to trash me, you know?
And presumably, since she's an ex of his, yeah, probably wouldn't have nice things to say. You're generally getting a pretty biased perspective when you meet up with someone exes to learn about them. And it is kind of a security breach to meet up with those people in someone's past. I'm not here to say when it's right or wrong, but at least for me, I feel like once you pass the 2,500 women mark, then yeah, it's understandable if someone wants to dig a little bit and figure out what's going on here.
It is completely bull, you know?
Sarper, in a last-ditch effort, tries to say that he is not going to let Shekinah go meet with this woman, but Shekinah rolls her eyes and is like, no, I'm going.
I'm not gonna let you go, please.
I'm not gonna let you stop me.
And then it happens. After all of this buildup, all of this tension, what's this woman gonna say? Is this the truth? Does she just hate Sarper? Does she have the juice? What is Sarper lying about? Finally, Shekinah goes up to meet with this woman and gets the truth. Well, maybe the truth. So here's the deets. They met on a dating app sometime around 2 years ago. They dated for 3 to 4 months, saw each other a couple of times a week, and were texting constantly. She said he was very charming and made her feel instantly comfortable as if the two of them had known each other their whole lives. She'd constantly wake up to loving messages of, "Good morning, my love," and "We're going to be together forever," and "I've never felt this way about a woman ever before you." And importantly, Sarper told this woman that he loved her.
He said he loved you also.
And that is the biggest red flag for Shekinah. Because throughout their entire relationship with Shekinah and Sarper, Sarper has repeatedly told Shekinah that he's never felt this way about a woman before. He's never used the love word. This is the only time he's ever been honest and felt comfortable. But this woman, if we can believe her, and if this is even a real storyline at all, is telling Shekinah that Sarper told her basically all the same stuff. And this woman goes on to speculate that Sarper's probably told many other women the exact same thing.
He has told me that he's never said I love you to another woman besides me.
Sarper's relationship with this mystery woman apparently started to come to an end after this woman started to maybe find some evidence that there may be some other girls around, and constantly felt like Sarper was always trying to manipulate her by using his controlling behavior and his harsh temper. After some kind of fight, Sarper said the two of them would reconnect, and then he never did, and just completely ghosted her. And the episode ends with this woman wishing that by telling Shekinah all this information, maybe Shekinah won't end up hurt like this woman was. All in all, this does seem pretty likely. Or rather, I should say, it does make sense that a guy that has been with 2,500 women and looks like Sarper, acts like Sarper, it's pretty inevitable that someone in Sarper's past is going to have a story like this. And of course, from what we learned about his background earlier in the episode, whether this is all true for Sarper specifically or not, just using it as a jumping off board for the general population, that is the kind of story that would create the kind of person that Sarper appears to be. And people like Sarper in real life do generally have these track records of hurting women, lying to them, and finding themselves in these kind of situations. Of course, this is all very convenient and dramatic for television. There just happens to be this woman that says the most dramatic thing at just the right time for Shekinah to question their entire relationship. So it does seem convenient for the television, but if Sarper has been with that many people and he's been in Turkey for a lot of it, then it makes sense that you probably only have to throw a rock down the street until you find someone with this kind of story about him. So maybe at the end of the day, who cares if Sarper is actually guilty of these things, but we can still talk about these dynamics and still have our fun. That's all I got for today's video. Let me know what you thought about Sarper and Shekinah in the comments down below. A big thank you to all of you channel members, with an extra special thank you to Nancy Jones for being a producer of this channel. And until next time, I'll see you later.